On television, first the headlines. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to allow the gradual return of students to schools effective from next week and imposes a fine of 1,000 Omani riyals against violators of the health procedures. The initiative to finance educational qualification program for job seekers is launched in line with Oman Vision 2040. And the Muscat Stock Exchange launches new electronic trading system Optic. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The Supreme Committee on COVID-19 held a meeting today in the Ministry of Interior main office. The meeting was chaired by His Excellency Sayyid Ahmoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of Interior, and attended by Their Excellencies the committee's members. The Supreme Committee reviewed the latest developments on COVID-19 and the preventive measures. The Supreme Committee hails the continued care of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq to follow up with all matters concerning the public health and the updates on COVID-19 outbreak. The committee reviewed all reports on health situations, taking into account its care for education, and decided to allow the gradual return of students to schools effective from Sunday, January the 17th, 2021, based on a mechanism that will be announced by the Ministry of Education, while stressing on the importance of observing all preventive measures set forth in the health protocol to ensure the safety of the students, the faculty, and the administrative staff. The matter will be reviewed based on the epidemiological situations in Oman. The committee also reviewed reports from the authorities responsible for following up with the quarantine procedures, which indicated that some citizens and residents did not abide by the procedures. The violations include not wearing or returning the tracking bracelet and failure to take the mandatory test after the quarantine. In consideration of everyone's health, the Supreme Committee decided to impose 1,000 Omani riyals as a fine against violators. The committee hails the cooperation from everyone in observing the preventive measures, which resulted in the reduction of infection and mortality rates and the reduction of patients admitted in hospital wards and the ICU. The committee continues to constantly monitor the procedures to secure the vaccine to immunize the targeted segments based on the priorities set by the Ministry of Health. The committee stresses on the necessity that everyone must continue to observe the preventive measures set by the concerned authorities at the places of residence, work, or public areas. The committee urges everyone not to neglect the measures, especially in light of the wide and dangerous spread of various strains of the virus in a number of countries around the world, and the subsequent ban on movement and the closure of many businesses for extended periods of time. The Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor launched the initiative to finance educational qualification program in cooperation with Bank Nizwa. More details in the following report.
To equip the education sector with highly qualified local cadres, the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry of Education, in cooperation with Bank Nizwa, launched an initiative to finance the educational qualification program, which aims to qualify more than 1,000 Omani graduates annually.
We expect this initiative to provide an easy funding for those who are not capable to get jobs in the public sector, and especially in the education industry. It will provide loans toward training and enable them to get a job easier.
The program will be available for graduates from more than 12 majors, including Islamic Studies, Arabic language, English language, mathematics, chemistry, physics, biology, geography, history, information technology, music skills, and fine arts.
The beneficiaries of this initiative are the hopefuls, the hopeful employees. So the bank is giving them an opportunity to start their life with a head start, with ease and with no complexity. This is important because any new comer to the workforce it needs a little bit of help. So in Bank Nazwa we have decided to extend that help with no profits, with very minimal profits, and this is an indication of Bank Nazwa CSR policy.
The venture comes within the framework of cooperation between the public and the private sectors to contribute to bolstering education and realizing Oman Vision 2040. The program will empower the graduates with the relevant educational and employability skills to qualify as teachers in various areas of specialization in the education sector. From the Ministry of Labor, Saleh Bakhalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
The Ministry of Health announced that a second batch of the Pfizer vaccine reached the country. The batch contains 11,700 doses that will be used to vaccinate the same community segments targeted in the first stage. The ministry expresses its appreciation for the quick response during the first stage of the national vaccination program and urges the targeted segments to continue to take the vaccine during the coming stages, promote the community awareness of its importance, not to heed to rumors, and take the information from the official credible sources. The Ministry of Health announced that the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate reached 130,944, while the total number of deaths reached 1,508. The total recovered cases reached 123,187, which is 94.1% of the total recovery rate. The ministry indicated that the total number of inpatients during the last 24 hours reached 58, out of which 23 are in intensive care units. The newly renamed Muscat Stock Exchange launched the new electronic trading system Optic, the most recent and developed system at the level of stock exchanges. The system will enhance the market's capabilities in trading and control operations. This new system, which was designed and developed by Euronext according to the best use standards, will meet all the future needs of the market, whether in terms of developing services or including new investment tools. Still to come on News Bulletin. A social initiative is launched in the Governorate of Buraymi aiming to support the productive families and job seekers. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Central Bank of Oman, CBO, affirmed that the circulation of the new banknotes started as legal tenders side by side with the current banknotes. In a statement, His Excellency Tahir bin Salim Al Amri, CEO of the Central Bank of Oman, said that the issuing of the new banknotes coincides with the first anniversary of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq assumption to power. It's worth mentioning that CBO earlier announced issuing new banknotes, namely 20 riyals, 10 riyals, 5 riyals, 1 riyal, 500 bayza and 100 bayza to be complementary to the 6th series of the new Omani banknote 1441 Hijri coinciding 2020, which started to circulate the new banknote of 50 riyals during July 2020. CBO, in cooperation with local banks, is currently configuring ATM and CDM machines to be compatible with the new banknotes. Oman oil price March 2021 delivery reached $55 and 72 cents per barrel. According to Dubai Mercantile Exchange, Oman oil price rose by 48 cents. The average price of Oman oil January 2021 delivery reached $43.83 per barrel, thus $2.72 higher than the price of December 2020 delivery. A social initiative was launched in the Governorate of Buraimi aiming to support the productive families and job seekers. It came in cooperation among an Omani businessman and the Department of Social Development represented in Empowerment Program, in addition to the Buraimi charity team. The initiative includes some kiosks that were distributed to productive families and job seekers to launch their own projects that included preparing some local Omani dishes as well as other products including handicrafts and palm tree products with a good and economic value. The Ministry of Education, represented by the Directorate General of Education in Al-Dakhiliya Governorate, held a celebration to mark the Arab Literacy Day. The event was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Hilal bin Saeed Al Hajri, Governor of Al-Dakhiliya, and we have more details in the following report.
The 8th of January every year is marked as the Arab Literacy Day to highlight the Sultanate's ongoing endeavors in eliminating illiteracy. The Directorate General of Education in Al-Dakhiliya Governorate celebrated this occasion under the theme, like other challenges, eliminating illiteracy is everyone's responsibility.
The Sultanate of Oman, represented by the Ministry of Education, celebrating this event with other Arab countries about the day of literacy, or the Arab Literacy Days, which is marked on the 8th of January of every year. And the main aim actually is to put an end to the illiteracy in the Arab countries. There are other aims, which are to raise the awareness of the difficulties and the problems that illiterate people, individuals, they have and they struggle with.
Relevant centers and classes have been established around the country to eradicate all forms of illiteracy.
In Al-Dakhiliya, there have been opened around 37 classes, all in different wilayats here in Al-Dakhiliya, with around 320 learners. And also there are some classes have been opened for special education for those with special needs, in collaboration with the Ministry of Social Development, basically in Al-Wafa centers. Plus there's a cooperation with the Oman Police also to open classes for those with special cases.
The event was also a call to all community sectors to take part in supporting the projects and programs designed for combating illiteracy to make the Sultanate illiterate-free. Certainly, knowledge removes the darkness of ignorance. Eradicating illiteracy culminates the efforts exerted towards attaining a knowledge-based society and competitive national talents. صالح بن خلفان الرحبي، ولاية of نزوة الداخلية، Governorate.
Indonesian Navy divers searching the ocean floor today recovered the flight data recorder from a Surwagia airjet that crashed into the Java Sea with 62 people on board. The device is expected to help investigators to determine what caused the Boeing plane to nosedive into the ocean in heavy rain shortly after taking off from the Jakarta on Saturday. Military officials say that the plane's other black box, the cockpit voice recorder, was likely to be found soon because its beacon was being emitted in the same area. So far, the searchers have sent 74 body bags containing human remains to the police identification experts, who yesterday said that they had identified their first victim, the 29-year-old flight attendant. The inauguration of U.S. President-elect Joe Biden will look different from other presidential inaugurations because of last week's riot with extremely tight security around the entire capital region. At least 10,000 National Guard troops from several states will be in place by Saturday. Some will be obvious officers in uniforms, checkpoints, metal detectors, and fencing. The U.S. Defense Department said soldiers from the National Guard arrived in Washington, D.C. However, other than the rally that led up to the storming of the iconic Capitol building, the inauguration is designated as a national special security event, which clears the way for communication, funding, and preparation between multiple agencies in Washington, like the Capitol Police, Pentagon, Homeland Security, and District Area Police. A fire in an apartment block killed 8 people in the Russian city of Yekaterinburg in the early hours of today. Investigators said a child was among those killed and that the criminal case has been opened to determine the cause of the fire and establish measures that could prevent a similar incident in the future. The fire was reported at 2:58 a.m. local time and contained by the firefighters before being extinguished a little over an hour later. In total, 90 people, including 9 children, were evacuated, and dozens of firefighters helped the residents to escape the building. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's news bulletin, here are the main points once again. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to allow the gradual return of students to schools effective from next week and imposes a fine of 1,000 Omani riyals against violators of the health procedures. The initiative to finance educational qualification program for job seekers is launched in line with Oman Vision 2040. And the Muscat Stock Exchange launches the new electronic trading system, Optic. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, thank you for watching and have a good night.